Shadow Systems already has a big gun with a compensator from the factory with the DR920P. Shadow Systems already had the small gun from the factory with a compensator called the CR920P. Now, the Goldilockses and porridge aficionados everywhere are rejoicing because they've introduced the CR920P and the XR920P. Welcome back to the Humble Marksman channel. I'm David, and this is the Shadow Systems MR920P. Now, if you've watched the channel for a long time, you know that I used to carry one of these. It's been about a year carrying the MR920 when it originally came out with the threaded barrel model. And I really like that gun because in my hands, just the way the trigger is set up, the frame and everything, it's a more capable version of a Glock pistol. This version is basically that gun, but you can see that they have redesigned the lines at the front of the slide to marry up with the compensator, which is made out of steel, straight from the factory. That's right, YouTube manual reviewers, this is a totally stock gun from the factory. No modified guns here, baby. On that point, if you think you're subscribed to the channel, go ahead and check because they've been unsubscribing people recently too, so there's that. But this gun kind of begs the question, how does this gun shoot relative to the DR920P, which I've done a review on previously, to the CR920P, which I happen to have with me right here and looks very similar, and just the plain Jane Glock 19. I've got you covered on all of that, but first I do need to shout out to my dad's dads. You've got the most important job in the year, and it's 2024. We need to be more switched on than we ever have. And I can help you embarrass your kids, wives, and coworkers with this. What do you call a fly with no wings? A walk. So full transparency, this is a sample that was provided to me by Shadow Systems for review purposes. I paid for all of my own ammo. No money was changed hands from this. I'm not going to promote this or anything like this, but I'm sure many of you have questions about how this stacks up, especially relative to the other offerings, so that's kind of what this video is about. There are no video sponsors today, except a quick shout out to my Patreon and local supporters. You guys are amazing. Thanks so much for your support. Helps make stuff like this possible, buys ammo, all those kinds of things. Yeah, you're right. This isn't where I normally record my videos. This is on spring break with my kids at an Airbnb. But it also begs the question, since Shadow Systems guns typically require a break-in, they say it takes about a 1 to 200 round break-in period before the gun is going to be fully fire fit together and take the set it's going to have. How does it work, especially with a compensator, since compensators dumb down the energy on the slide to the point where some ammo won't work in guns that have compensators. So I tested it with a bunch of ammo. That'll be at the end too. So first, a quick overview of the MR920. It is a Glock 19 size pistol. It takes Glock magazines. It is only available in 9mm. So you guys who really want 10mm or 45 or whatever, sorry. It comes with two PMags as you see here, and with the little magwell installed, you can see it sits in the gun exactly like a magazine sits in a Glock 19. The drama then begins with the frame on the Shadow Systems guns. They have a better grip texture than the Glock texture, and it comes up much higher on the frame, allowing you to get better traction when you're shooting the gun. And there's little thumb ledges at the front, so just better index points. You can build the grip more consistently. I find I have better traction when I shoot with the Shadow frames, but the secret sauce that I really appreciate about them is they understand that one of the big limiting factors on a Glock is the grip angle that Glocks come with. So they have this backstrap system which will change the way the gun sits in your hand and your index as a result. They've got 3 different options. As you see here is kind of like the CZ-P10 M&P grip angle, but it works with my 2011 presentation. They have a 1911 presentation that's even shallower, and they have the Glock presentation as well. So if you need that Glock grip angle, the backstraps will get it to you. However, none of the backstraps increase the length of pull any. The guns have very highly functional slides, as you can see here, with really cool looking slide cuts. They've got match barrels that are spiral fluted and, you know, pretty. But the optic cut, which doesn't use any recoil bosses, is a multi-optic cut. It sinks down the dot pretty darn low on the slide. Doesn't have any recoil posts, but it does have these little polymer spacers that you can put at the back of the gun. And it comes with high-strength bolts that keep the optic engaged. They've redesigned the extractor on the system so that these longer screws that they put in there are going to be adequate. And I've shot a bunch of rounds on Shadow Systems guns, not had any issues with screws. With a gun that's this pretty, you're probably thinking, wow, I bet that's got an amazing trigger. Not exactly. The trigger is what I would call a improved duty style trigger. It very much feels in characteristics like a Glock, except for they have taken pretty much all of the slack out of the trigger. There's not as much squish on the wall. It's a 5 to 6 pound brake, just like you would expect. It's got co-witness sights that are a night sight front and a black target rear, so that's all to the good as well. But what's really important about the gun is the trigger face is redesigned. It is a flat-ish face trigger that breaks at nearly 90 degrees, and it is very well situated with the shape of the grip to get straight to the rear trigger presses. So you low left Glock guys would have probably an easier time shooting this kind of trigger. And the result of this is the accuracy because of that match grade barrel. I just get insane accuracy shooting these. If you consider this is a 21.5 ounce pistol at 25 yards, I was stacking rounds on the head box of the target I was shooting at. 25 yards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That'll do, pig. That'll do. The other big feature about this pistol is that it is roughly a Glock 17 slide length, so it does share holster compatibility with a Glock 17, and it matches pretty much identically with the Daniel H9 I've been carrying since those have come out. It's roughly the same dimension. It's really great for inside the waistband carriers because there is an extra, ½ inch in the waistline, so it acts to stabilize the gun inside your belt. This is really kind of an ideal setup for carry more than a 4-inch, but some people aren't going to like it because, they're not as long-waisted and maybe their, thigh is going to poke into the gun a bit more than a true 4-inch gun. Now let's talk about the reliability. With compensated guns, it's always challenging to make them work with a wide range of ammo, so I've got a bunch of hollow points here, both to test its ability to feed as well as cycle these rounds. So this is Nosler 115 ASP. So let's see how this goes. That was very nice to shoot. Nosler 124 ASP. No problem. This is Critical Defense Light 115s. This is generally short barrel stuff. Let's see how this goes. Oh, that's ridiculous. Critical Duty 135 plus P. Honestly, not too bad. And 147 subsonic JHPs from Hornady. No problems. I'm happy to report that testing it with 4 different types of range loads and 4 different loadings of hollow points, 0. It had 0 issues getting broken in, and at this point I've got about 500 rounds through the pistol and it's just been absolutely fine. I haven't had a single issue from slide lock, and that's pretty much how I load the gun. So there is that. So obviously the next question is going to be like, well, hey bro, I need a concealed carry piece, how is this compared to the CR920P? Well, you can look at them side by side, and the grip is shorter on the CR920P and the slide is significantly skinnier on the CR920P. So if you absolutely cannot print it all, the CR920P is going to do a better job hiding on your person. However, I would pick this gun all day, every day, because the fatter grip and the slightly longer grip gives you better control of the gun. The compensator works in such an effective manner that it's actually really pleasant to shoot. And for it to be a 21.5 ounce gun and it's as pleasant as it is to shoot, it's actually pretty nice. So for my purposes, because I'm a bigger dude, I would probably pick this over the CR920P. And then that brings the next question up. Well, the DR920P, that's the big version of this gun. It's basically 4.5 inches before the compensator, and it has a much bigger compensator. What I found, and this was true at SHOT Show when I shot the XR920, which is the longer gripped version of this gun, basically the same top end with the 17 round grip, I would say that I actually prefer the 4-inch slide moving and how that slide moves. I found that I had less dip on return. It just felt like it was a little bit faster recoil impulse, but it was still very controllable. I actually probably prefer this upper than the DR920 upper, which is in its own right a fantastic gun. I think it made my top guns of 2022 list that I put out. It was a very, very great gun. Still like that gun. But I do think I probably favor this kind of 4-inch compensated upper over the 4.5 plus comp that was on the other one. How does it shoot relative to a Glock 19? Now this is about an $1,100 gun. I don't know what the MSRP is, but I've checked on the online gun sellers, and some of them have them listed for about $1,100, which is kind of similar distance to what this is in the DR920P. It's roughly not quite twice the cost of a Glock. Is it twice as good? No. Would I pick this over the regular Glock 19? I mean, if you're in a financial position to do so and not miss that, would you rather have 2 Glock 19s or one of these? Technically, you've got 2 hands, I guess, but you shoot better with both hands on one gun. I would probably pick one of these over a Glock 19 if you have the money to afford it. Another thing that's kind of interesting, and this is kind of cool for the people who live in restricted states, is the barrel is not a threaded barrel. It uses a lug system. I don't know how to take this compensator off because they've redesigned it. You just use a punch to take it off, and it kind of is self-timing and self-correcting or whatever. But they haven't put a video out on how to remove the comp. So I'm just waiting for them to do that before I sit there and cuss at the thing for an hour figuring it out my own self. So there's that. But it doesn't have a threaded barrel, which matters to some of you people living in restricted states. So this is a very good utilitarian gun. It is very pleasant to shoot on the range. You can concealed carry it. It's got a rail, so you could do the home defense thing with it. With the shorter grip, it conceals pretty good. So this is starting to get into sort of that jack of all trades style gun. Now, when I had the DR920P out, I actually took some of my competition ammo from my full tilt open gun and shot it through the DR920P. Same 9 major used in the Shadow Systems. And you can see that in this video here.